Today we're going to cover all things buying on episode 2 of the COMC tutorial series. I'm going to cover the fees associated with the cards that you purchase, what to do in the settings to maximize your profit and minimize your cost. Along with that, I'll be covering the fees associated with your purchases, everything from the cost of buying through auction versus buying through fixed price versus the fixed shipping costs associated with your cards. But I won't just be talking the talk. I'll be bringing you through real examples of cards that I've purchased, showing you when it's most advantageous to pay for your auctions through the COMC platform or when it may be more advantageous to just pay through eBay directly. There's a lot to cover and I'm going to try to pack a lot of information in a short amount of time here, so let's get to work. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. For the OGs of the channel that continue to tune in, I appreciate you so much. If this is your first time stopping by, please take a minute to like, comment, subscribe, show whatever support you can. It really does help a lot. With the channel plug out of the way, we're just going to jump into it here. So I'm back at the COMC dashboard where we left off on the first video. If you did not watch the first video, that was basically about getting your storefront set up from the ground up. If you're interested in that, I will link that at the end of the video. As for this video, we're going to pick up where we left off, and this is going to be all things buying. And first of all, before we even get started into making any purchases, we're going to want to determine what our plan is, or what are we trying to do on the site. Okay? If you're looking to just flip internally, never touch cards, never ship anything home, there's a setting in here that's more favorable to you. It's going to take up less of your money or actually make your credits go further, I guess I would say. What I'm going to do is show you that now. So it's going to be in your options. And when we look at the COMC menu that is here, it is also up here in the drop down, I believe. I believe your options are up here. So this menu will follow you on every screen as we discussed in the first video. We're going to go here. And once you are in your profile options, we're going to go to the outgoing offers, okay? What this setting is, there's the simplified shipping mode, which, as it indicates, is simplified. Explains here what it is. If you are a typical buyer, we recommend simplified shipping. This will streamline your buying experience, which is true. It's a little less confusing. If you are a seller that is interested in buying and relisting cards, aka flipping, we recommend advanced reselling mode. We'll go over that in just a second. Items purchased in advanced reselling mode do not qualify for flat rate shipping or other shipping promotions. It's key to remember that. If you are somebody that's primarily a collector or you're looking to buy cards here, ship home, look to grade them, or maybe you're going to try to build sets or build rainbows or do whatever you're going to do. You want to acquire cards in bulk off of COMC and you want to send them home. Simplified is going to be the way to go. And what that means is when you purchase the card, there's a little shipping fee, which I'm going to show you in a second, that's associated to every card. And it's determined on the level at which it's ingested into the platform. Now, before I get into either one of these, I think it's easier for me to just show you. So we're going to leave this on Simplified and we're going to go up here and pick up the same exact example that we used in the first video, the 1992 Shaquille O'Neal Topps rookie. So this is a nice one to pick because it's always a large volume in inventory, and it's worth enough to where people will upload it as elite, they will upload it as standard, all of that good stuff. So we're going to go find him here. Okay, so here we have the Shaquille O'Neal, and it shows you his fee is $5.75. And this is what it looks like as a buyer looking in. Now I'm going to toggle over to my personal COMC and show you what this would look like from the background. Okay, so now here we are in my COMC inventory on my main account. And you can see here, I'm asking $69.99 for this PSA 8 refractor, okay? But you can see the internal shipping is $1. This is kind of hidden in the background. So in this shack that I just showed you, where it's $5.75, that's what you're paying, whereas right here, this would be what the buyer would be paying. Now what the seller sees is a completely different thing. As a buyer, it really doesn't affect you in simplified mode. It doesn't matter. Here, if someone were to buy this, that $1 is going to get paid. So if you're in simplified mode, you are paying that $1, and then the remainder is going to me, $68.99, and then I would pay the 5% fee on that and get credited the rest of it. This shipping would be paid, and then when this moves to your vault, it would show as the shipping is 0. So it would show that it's already been paid. And then when you go to ship it home, you don't have to pay this fee. So if I were to ship this card back home, this is going to get added into the cost of it, or this is going to get added into the cost of it. Those are just some examples of what you would see in the simplified mode, how that affects you, right? So we'll go back to the shack, and you can see this is that asking price, but we don't know what the shipping and everything in the background is for this user or this user or this user. And really, we don't care as a buyer. We just know this is what it's going to cost us. Whatever happens in the background don't matter. But just remember, on Simplified, you're paying the shipping up front with the intent of capitalizing on the flat rate home. So the flat rate home is going to be very, very cheap. If you buy a lot of these shacks and then ship them all home, you're not going to get nickel and dimed by that 25 cents. So let's go back to this setting, and we're going to look at the advanced seller mode. So now we're back here. We're going to go back to the outgoing offers, but now we're going to change to advanced reselling mode. Now we are going to go back and look at that same shack, and he's going to look a little different this time. Okay. We're back at the same Shaquille O'Neal, and you can see it's going to cost you $5.50, and it's letting you know that the shipping that's assessed to this is 25 cents. So now you can acquire this for $5.50, and you can relist it, and you have less money tied up. The problem is, in advanced reselling mode, is you can do this, but you have to be cognizant of the shipping fees. Because now, since you didn't pay them, in the first example, you could relist the shack, and there would be a $0 shipping fee. So if we go back to this example on my COMC, let's say I had bought this card off the market, this Pete Sampras PSA 9, this shipping would be paid, so it'd say plus 0. So if I listed this for $49.98 plus 0, instead of me getting paid based on $48.98, I'd get paid based on the entire balance. So nobody is paying shipping a second time. So what advanced reseller mode is essentially doing is it's kind of kicking the can down the street. It's you saying, I have no intent to ever ship this card home. I'm just going to move it from point A to point B and resell it. And when I resell it, that person can pay the shipping. Okay, so that's essentially what you're doing. You're only gonna, no matter how many times a card is shuffled around in here, the shipping only needs to be paid one time. So it's not like a forever, every transaction thing where COMC is just getting rich off shipping, because they're certainly not. That's essentially why you would use advanced reseller mode, would be if you were looking to just flip internally. Now what I like to do is, you can see there's not a lot of stuff here that I have zeros on, and that's because I like to kind of play the game and go back and forth. If there's a card that I know I'm going to send home, I will buy it on Simplified. If it's a card I know I am just going to flip on the site, I just have no intent to ever own, at least physically. I don't need to touch it. I don't need it in my collection. It doesn't go to a set. It's not going to get graded. I'm not going to try to sell it on eBay. I want to just flip it internally. I feel like it's marked too low on COMC, and I just want to buy it and put it right back out for sale. I will go to my settings real quick and change to advanced reselling mode, buy that card and do that. But you can toggle back and forth. It's not like you're violating any terms of the site or anything. A lot of people do it. It's just a matter of making sure that you know what your intent is with each card, and then go from there. So that is essentially how you want to get set up in your buying. You want to know what you're going to buy and what your intent for what you're buying is. And once you know that, you can pick your buying mode that fits what you're doing best. I typically just leave it on Simplified, and then if I'm going to go just do some random perusing the site to look for flips, I'll switch it. But typically I'll leave it here just to save the headache, not get myself caught in a pickle or anything like that. So once you have your buying mode chosen, we'll start right here, the buyer menu. So Auctions 1 is pretty straightforward. You can click on that and view the auctions you've won anytime. You can also link your eBay account to this, and this is where I am constantly buying and selling on COMC. Here's a quick look at my COMC with my eBay link to it. You can see it's linked to the Good Form Sports Cards eBay account. And what you can do is you can set up an auto pay here. You can see I have a couple auctions that I've won here. And there's a few things you should know about winning auctions on COMC. You can see here, I won these auctions here for 99 cents. I can pay it with COMC credit, but I'm paying $1.10. So what they do in order for you to have eBay auctions integrated with COMC is the seller pays 5% fees, which you think that's great. That's a great alternative as a seller because you're paying roughly 13 to 15%, somewhere in there on eBay, depending on if you have a store with them and all those sorts of things. It's not an eBay video. We're not going to get into their fees, but obviously it's almost a third of the price to auction off a card, at least in regards to the final value fee here on COMC. Well, what they do to make it work is to pay with COMC credit. There's about a 10 to 11%, you can see here. It's just about 10% that is passed on to the buyer. So you can pay with credit. It does go to your vault. It's very, very handy. So you have to decide what works for you and what your intent with that card is going to be. So a lot of times you will see this card is not something I will send home. I bought this card here specifically with the intent to flip. It's a cheap Bowman First colored parallel. I threw the lowest bid I could possibly throw on it. So I'm going to buy this here, pay with my store credit. Now it's marked paid and it is going to go into my vault. So I can immediately flip that card here within the vault, although I won it through an eBay auction, which is pretty cool. So that's a card I never have to touch. I can pay for it with credit. I don't have to pay for it with money. I don't have to pay shipping. I don't have to do anything. This Joe Flacco, I may want to send him home for grading. So there's a number of things I can do with that. I can pay him here, but choose to stage that for a COMC shipment home later. Or I can pile up a bunch of wins like this and pay for them on eBay and actually have them shipped home. So when you see the COMC mail days that I've had at home, a lot of those are just exactly what I'm talking about here, is where I've cherry-picked a handful of cards that I won in auction, but I paid for shipping because the shipping was less than paying 10% of all those wins, if that makes sense. So you have to do what makes sense for you economically and then ultimately what you're going to do with the card. But that's how I use the COMC auctions, and that's a little bit about what it looks like on my side. We'll get back into this in a little bit, but I'm going to get back to the new account so we can keep moving through the stuff. Now it's about what to buy. And you can go about things a lot of ways. It's finding what you want. Now, obviously, the best way to go about it is to just browse. And there's a lot of things you can do. So if we, just to keep it easy, go with the same example of the Shaq rookie. I'm having to type with my left hand as I record here, so that's, sorry, I'm so slow. All right, so you can see there's a lot of things you can do to filter these cards. You can, if you type in just a very vague search, 92 tops, you could whittle this down to Shaq. You could start to pick basketball, you could start to pick rookies, then it's going to go to players, and you'll be able to narrow it down the old-fashioned way if you don't know how to just go direct. Sometimes if there's a particular card you want, but you don't remember the parallel, you don't remember whatever it is, you can start with the base set and then start just perusing through the different cards associated with it and try to narrow your search down. If there's a particular seller you like, you can also go here, and they typically have a link to. Once you go to their store, you can see it. That's a good little tip I'm going to throw in here. If you find a seller that you like, or one that's running a promotion, or sometimes you'll notice they've got like their automatic acceptance turned on. Like if you offer anything at 30% or 50%, it's just you instantly get a accept. Go through their inventory and just clean out what you want. I love finding people like that where you can just go clean up some stuff for cheap. But we're going back to Shaq here. And this is something I mentioned on the first video, but COMC's cataloging is really good. And this is something that is a strength for them over eBay, is if you go onto eBay, there's probably way more than 140 of these top Shaqs on there, but they're really hard to find. They're going to be, if you typed in 92 top Shaquille O'Neal, you'd pull up all this sort of stuff and God knows what else, because sometimes people just don't use the right keywords. They don't know what they're doing. They're using AI, and it's all kinds of craziness, where here you have a seasoned staff that is cataloging these cards, every little parallel, so you can see even like the conditions are separated off from each other. So the good to very goods are here, the EX and near mints are here, the ones that don't have the condition are just generally accepted as near mint. So you can see that's the situation with those. You got your different PSA slabs. If you wanted to just look at which ones were graded, you can check that off. And it really makes it easy to find things as a buyer. There we go. All right, so it's going to sort out we can pick if we want just PSA slabs, then we can pick the grade. If we're like, I only want to see the PSA 10s, that's going to bring you all the 1992 tops Shaquille O'Neal PSA 10s. Okay, so that's pretty easy to find what you want. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here. I think anybody that knows how to Google search and use filters knows how to use something like this. It's pretty straightforward, so there's no sense on me killing 5-10 minutes on it. But we're going to go back to this, and what I like is how it's cataloged. So all the base 92 tops that are basically near mint or better, they're all queued together. You don't have to go look from listing to listing and then worry about, is this person have good feedback? Are they motivated to sell to me? Are they going to say their dog ate their mail because they get the price they wanted? Or is it going to take them 4 days and they're going to give me an excuse why they didn't ship on time? And it's just all that stuff you deal with humans, which can be good or bad. Here it's just automated. Once it's in the vault, it just electronically moves around, person to person, ticket number to person, all that good stuff, okay? So here, if you buy something, you've got something. It's in your vault. You can ship it home, you can sell it, you do whatever you want with it. You don't deal with any of the nonsense, which is one of the main things I love about the site. So if you were going to look at this card and you say, I really want to... Now, I know this isn't the case, but just for an example, we're going to say, this card, I feel like I could buy it around $6, and if it grades a 9, I'll break even, and if it grades a 10, I make a lot of money. It's probably not horribly far off, but you're not going to make money in a 9, not right now with the rates what they are for grading. But you would look at the cards that are around $6 and see if maybe you could gem 10. You're going to want to look at, for sure, centering, the sharpness, and you're going to get as close as you can. You can't tell with the surface and all that stuff, and you really can't anyways. This one looks okay, and it's a little thin at the top, but it's not bad. But you can go through these, and you can get the best of the best. This one's not bad. It's a little thick on the side here, but otherwise it looks pretty sharp. I don't really see any discoloration or staining or anything too egregious going on with it. This might be one that you'd consider. And maybe if your price point is $6 or less, maybe you're going to go in here and say, well, this person's 5th in the rankings here. I might offer this guy like $5.50 and see if he takes it, or $6 or whatever it is. You can do those sort of things. If you're just fine with this and you're like, this is a good enough copy, I'm fine paying a little more than I usually do just because it looks pretty sharp, you can do that. But the nice part is that they're all stacked in here and you can all see, and it creates good competition. You can go through here and look at all 140 different cards and make the determination of what you want to buy, essentially. Now, another way you can find something, if you're not going to make a very pointed purchase, if you just want to see what's available, there's 2 things I like to do. One, I'll just hit the go bar here when it's empty, and this is what I look for when I look at the auctions every day. So I'll go to this bullet over here on the left and just switch the listing format to just auction. And this is going to show all auctions, and it has, right now it's sorted from lowest price first, but what we want is ending soonest. That is going to show you the auctions that are going to be ending. So here we got some that have 10 minutes left as I record this video, and you would just circle or cycle through these cards. And there's usually maybe 2,000 a day, give or take. So if you wanted to, if you're looking at, hey, I'm just a baseball guy, I don't want to see all this other stuff, you go over here, you just click baseball. You can see every baseball auction that they have coming up for the next week in order. And if you want to break it down further, if you're like, I only care about Shohei Ohtani, okay, well, now you only got to look at 50-some cards. That makes it a lot easier for you. So you see just a couple of clicks, and you can see what's available for auction. And these are cards, very obvious, that people are just auctioning off. They all start at 99 cents, and they're integrated with eBay, so you're going to get a lot of competition on these. But this is where, when I say I bought it off COMC auction, this is exactly where I bought them from. Another source, which is just like this, is I'll go to the search bar, I'll do it empty, and instead of ending soonest, I'll go to recently added. And this I'll leave on sometimes even when I'm working. If your job allows this, go ahead. If not, I'm not encouraging you to do this at the office, but I will set up a Google Chrome extension that auto refreshes like every 7 to 10 seconds, depending on the duration you want. And when there's new cards uploaded, they get added here. And sometimes you will see something where obviously a 190 count Jackson Holiday, I'm not really worried about that, but you will see ones where here we got a Kurt Busch Fast Tracks listed at $525. I probably wouldn't buy it, but sometimes you'll see these which are called COMC monopolies, where it's the only card listed on the site. And sometimes people don't know what to price their cards at, and they will just put something criminally low randomly. And this is where I'll try to snipe it out of recently added, because there's a lot of people that do this. It's not as easy to cherry pick out of here as you think it would be. Maybe this Jalen Suggs auto is underpriced. You could get it and then immediately flip it. And sometimes you could be so quick that you buy a card out of here and reflip it, and it's still in the recently added, and sometimes people will like buy it from you. So I've had that happen where I've owned a card for like 20 seconds and made a few bucks. So this is a good spot to camp out and look for deals if you're not really sure what to look for, if you just want to kind of hop in. If you want to get a feel for how cards are ingested into the site, and you just want to observe it and get your toes wet, this is a good spot to play around at. It's pretty much good around the clock. So if I refresh now manually, there's probably going to be something that was added. Okay, so yep, you can see that patch card is way down here now. So so this is the one that was first. So you can see just in this short time they've ingested all these cards here. And if there was a big deal in here, we would scoop one up. So you can see someone scooped up this John Franco right away. Sold out already. So somebody apparently liked that Score McDonald's card. Same with this Miles Bridges. Someone must have listed that really low. So you can see it moves quick. But those are some spots to go for buying. So far we've covered setting up your buying preferences. And that's going to position you to make the smartest purchases to either keep your costs down if you're flipping, or to keep costs down on your collectibles if you're shipping home. From there, I showed a couple of places you can go to just kind of get into the wild and just look at what's available out there. The cards are cataloged really well, as we've covered. So with that out of the way, I'm going to show you a couple examples of when it's advantageous to pay for your auction wins through the site here with your credits, and also show you a few examples of where there's actually more savings in combined shipping on eBay. To just, if you have a lot of auction wins in a short amount of time, it's more advantageous sometimes to just send them home directly to yourself and pay through eBay. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I've got the auctions that I've won here in the last couple of days up here on COMC, and it's going to show you what my winning bids are on the ones that I'm intending to either grade or flip here. See, these ones that are paid here, I paid already with credits. I'm planning on keeping this internal and just flipping it in the vault. These cards here are ones that one way, shape, or form, I want to get them home. So there's a little bit of a decision that comes into play. You can see the winning bid was $750, but in order for me to pay with my COMC credits, it's going to cost me $834 in credits. So it's actually going to cost me just a little over 10% to do that. So you have to play these situations to your advantage. Now, sometimes it's better to pay through it here. If it's a smaller amount, the 10% is only going to be 10 or 11 cents. Like in this case here, it's only just a little bit, and it's actually cheaper just to stage this card here, ship it home later in a bulk shipment. The cards like this, there's almost another $7 premium added on here. So that's definitely something I'll probably want to pay for externally and then ship home. Okay, so here's the second page of some auctions that I'm going to be paying here to complete the example. And a couple that we'll want to make note of is, first here we want to look at this Travis Kelce here. The winning bid $153.61, but over $170 to pay for it. So that's a $17 bump in fees. And that's a notable amount, because I'll show you when we get to eBay why it might be best to pay there. So to pay for the 10 cards that I've shown you on the 2 pages here, the winning bid amount was $291.78. If I were to pay with COMC credit here and add them to the vault, it would be $324.28 in credits, which is a $32.50 markup. Okay, so that's an additional $32.50 I'm paying above my winning bid amount in COMC credits to win on eBay and then keep it here in my vault. Now that doesn't just get that paid for, but there's also still the internal shipping charge assessed to it. And a good example of that, and why I wanted to show you the one on this page, is this card right here, this Noah Fafita from Bowman University. So it's not going to let me click on the item number here until I pay for it. If I were to pay for this here and keep it in the vault, where this, I don't want to call it game I'm playing, but we'll just say what my decision tree considers is what is the internal COMC shipping fee that's assessed to each one of these cards, especially the low end ones. Now I know the internal shipping fee on this one is $1. It was processed as an elite shipment, which means if I pay for this and try to flip it in the vault, it's going to take whatever sale amount I have and add $1 to it in order for me to sell it there. So this one actually makes sense for me to ship home if I can at an affordable rate. So we know that it costs $324.28 minimum just to pay for these in COMC, and then there's going to be the internal shipping fee assessed to it when and if I want to ship them home, if I don't flip them in the vault or whatever. So you can assume in those 10 cards there could be as much as $10 in shipping and as little as $2.50 if they're all 25-cent, like standard processing. So we know that that's going to cost us bare minimum $326, almost $327 to pay for $291.78. That's substantial. So now we'll go over to eBay. So now I'm in my cart here, and you can see there's the $291.78 in bid amount. So they're congruent from both sides, but there's no markup here as the buyer. The only thing I have to pay is shipping home. Well, we know the shipping on COMC is going to be bare minimum $250 and a maximum of $10 for those 10 cards. Now you can see here the eBay shipping's $14.99 all inclusive. And as of now recording this video, that's how COMC operates. So COMC has a $14.99 cap shipping. So like once you get, I believe their base fee for a elite process card is $5.99 and their base shipping for standard is like $2.99. And after you get 5 or 6 cards and you start exceeding that $14.99, you can see they start dinging them down and they spread out. So this Nolan Arenado is only 7 cents to send home, adding it in with some of these other cards. So now let's look at the Noah Fafita, which was our example here. He's 6 cents to add to this. So this actually, for the cost of the card and the cost to ship it home, is less than what it would have been to pay entirely with COMC credits, and then there's still that $1 assessed to it. So it's actually a much, much better option for me to send home. Again, the Travis Kelce, $153.61, even with dispersing the shipping out, it's $8 not even in fees, where it was $17 marked up before. So you can see that a lot of times if you have the capital to do it, it's better to just pay straight up through eBay than to keep the cards in COMC. So naturally here, I would pay for these cards here. It's $306.77 total to get to my door. And before it was just under $327 to get to my door with keeping it in COMC and whatever. So that's about a $20 difference, $20 savings, just to be kind of smart about where you want to do it. And you can tell by that I had spaces there back in my COMC auction wins that I'm strategic about it. I kind of pick and choose what I'm going to leave there and what I'm going to have sent directly home. So I will be paying for these cards here through eBay, saving myself the $20. Okay, so I showed you an example of when it might be beneficial to pay through eBay and ship directly home versus paying through COMC, keeping it in the vault and shipping it home later in a bulk shipment. So now I'm going to show you a scenario just a few days after the one I just showed you where it would be more beneficial to pay through COMC. So what I'm going to show you here are the cards that are up for discussion. There's 3 that I purchased. You can see right here we've got this platinum medallion here. The bid amount was $612. Now with the markup I would pay $680. It's Patrick Mahomes number to 20 right here. Purchased for $51.88 bid. With the markup, there's about $6 added to that. Then right here, we've got this number Damian Lillard card for $9.50. It's about $1 added on here. So when you add up all those fees combined, that's $7.51 additional in COMC fees or markup here if I were to pay this way. Okay, so that's an important number, $7.51. So now We're going to go over to eBay and see what that looks like in the shopping cart. Okay, now you can see the shopping cart here. It has the bid amounts in here again. 612 for the Platinum Medallion, 5188 for Mahomes, 950 for the Damian Lillard. But you'll see, because I haven't reached the shipping threshold of $14.99, I'm not receiving the shipping discounts I did in the previous example. So here, this would be an elite level card that was added in. So it's $5.99 shipping assessed to that. There's a second elite level card here, so there's the combined shipping of $1, and it would continue to be that way until it hit the $14.99 cap. And then here's a card from a standard submission, and that has the base $2.99 applied to it, and then subsequent cards of this tier would be 50 cents a piece until you reach the cap. So because I haven't reached the $14.99 cap, I'm not really benefiting from any shipping discounts at this point. I have different tiers that aren't lining up with each other, and then only one card is really reduced. So that is putting my additional fees above the bid amounts at $9.98. If you remember from the previous example, the total additional onto the bidding amounts was $7.51. Now, it's not as simple as there being roughly a $2, or I think it's $2.47 is what the difference would come to. So you're thinking the savings would be that much. It's not quite that much, and why I say that is because this fee here, it would be the all-in to get it to my door, okay, through eBay. So we need to keep the total of everything through COMC, from the purchase, the shipping, everything, to be below this. So we're going to go back to COMC. Okay, so now I'm back looking at my auctions won through the COMC portal. You can see here's the bid amounts again as they stand on eBay, all right? And we know from the previous screen it's $77.48 if I ship them, or if I pay through eBay and ship them home directly to myself. So if I pay these even with the markup, it's at $75.01 total expense. Now that's $75.01 to pay and stage it in the vault. So even though it's $2.47 less to do this, that's not my actual savings, because we know that when I ship them home, there's going to be a shipping fee assigned to them. And as we saw on the previous screen, each of these is the elite level, so those are going to be $1 a piece. And then this was a standard, so that's going to be 25 cents. So we know that the shipping is going to be $2.25 when I go to ship those home. So we have $75.01 to purchase the cards with credit, plus $2.25 when they ship. So that is going to give us a grand total paid through COMC with credits and cost to get home when they get home is going to be at $77.26. Not a great savings, but it is a savings of 22 cents to do this. And I typically, whenever I can save money, no matter how small, unless these cards are urgent to get home, which none of them are. Lillard's coming off an injury. Patrick Mahomes, it would be nice to have before the season, but as you can see, it was purchased in June. By the time that card gets home, even through eBay, that's not going to come back from PSA unless I pay probably more than I paid for the card to grade it. Not going to be a plausible scenario to get that back when that card's going to be at its peak. And the nice part about Mahomes is he's not a prospect, so I don't necessarily need him in that window before the season. Mahomes numbered to 20 in a good grade is going to have good value all the time, so I can be patient with that. A DeVry Henderson Platinum Medallion certainly is low demand. That probably has a very, very small niche of buyers that would purchase a card like that. So that one can really come home anytime. So knowing that I don't really need any urgency with these, there's no reason to pay for any kind of convenience or expediting, so to speak. So I would naturally pay for this with my COMC credits. So this is a situation here where I would I'll even do it for an example here just so you can see it. You just click on this. It's linked to your eBay. Simple as that. Paid. And those cards will now go to my dashboard. We'll go look right here. And it's as simple as just adding them to my next shipment. So now they're not even going to really show up as anything actionable in my inventory. They're going to be queued for the next shipment. And when I go to assemble a shipment, which I'll show you in a later video, we will see these cards show up and I will ship them home. That's a couple of examples of when it would be beneficial to pay within the platform, or perhaps go outside the platform and just pay eBay directly to have your card shipped home. It really just comes down to ultimately fees at first, what you really want to spend, and what's going to essentially be the least overall cost for you. And then with costs out of the way, it's like everything else. What level of convenience are you willing to pay for? So if you really have a nice card that you think there's a small window on and you need some urgency to get that card in your hands now, you definitely would just pay that little extra shipping through eBay if you believe that window is that tight and you need that card now, for instance, or something like that. And then it would be worth paying for the convenience because you would have capitalized on a small window. So those are some things to consider when working COMC auctions, and having your COMC account linked to your eBay. It gives you a lot of versatility in what you want to do with these cards, and you can kind of mix and match too. If there's a handful, you don't have to do what I did and do all or nothing, like ship everything home or leave everything in the vault. You can do a combination. If you win 20 cards, you could do 10 and 10 and find ways where maybe you just want to leave some in the vault and flip them. Maybe you want to send some home and inspect them for grading, or you think that perhaps the COMC vault is flooded with a particular card and it's driving the value really low, so you're going to scoop a few of those up and then try to sell them through eBay at a higher rate. You can do those sort of things. Really, the options go on and on and on. It's really about what you're trying to do and what your, I guess, model for success looks like. But those are two different examples that you can use there, and I've showed you a scenario for when it's beneficial to pay within COMC and when it's beneficial to pay through eBay. All right, so we're at the home stretch here, and we've covered pretty much all you need to know in regards to buying sports cards off of COMC. But there are a few items here that I can show you that are just going to give you just a little bit extra to just put you over the top. So these first two items kind of go hand in hand, and I'm going to show you these. The third item I'm going to show you might possibly save you more money than anything I've showed you so far on the site, so you're definitely going to want to stay tuned until the end. We're going to go back to our friend, the 1992 Shaq, just to keep things simple. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to him here. Well, it looks like there's been a sale put in while I've been recording the video. We have a new low man on the total pole. 543 is now the low card. But what we're going to do here is we are going to show you how to use a couple of the items here, which are the cart and your watch list. Now both of those can come in very handy and they work very similar. It just really depends what you want to do with it. The watch list to me is more something that you're going to just stash away, look at later. It's not really urgent. A cart is more like you're in there shopping, you're planning on making a purchase, and you're just kind of accumulating it in that cart, so when you're finished with your session or maybe a weekend or something, you can buy it all in bulk. So we'll start here with the cart. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a button on every card. You can look at the card all you want, zoom in if you really like this deal. It's actually not a bad card for really the low one. Its centering's not great, but that might be a PSA 9 just sitting right there. But we could throw this to our cart. Maybe we love this deal and we're going to add it in there, but we're going to continue to shop. You could also say, hey, if this seller's running a promotion, why don't I go over here and check out that seller's store? And we can search this member store using the same search parameters that we used in the auction example before. You can go over here on the left and click any sort of filters that you want. You want to look at graded, ungraded, autographs, auctions, buy now, anything that this seller has for sale right now. You can sit there and buy it on the promo. You can add it to your cart. For example, we're going to throw these Griffies in there. Okay, so I'm going to open up a couple of tabs for these Griffies, and we're going to add him to the cart too. For an example, I'm going to show you. So we are going to add that, and we are going to add these other Griffies. All right, we're going to close that tab down. Now we're also going to go back, and we're going to add this card to our watch list. Show you how the watch list works. Okay, so now this Shaq has been added to our cart and our watch list. The cart is accessible from any screen. Any screen you're looking at, you just scroll to the top. You can see the icon is here. Now, it says I have one, but we know there's several items in there. We just haven't refreshed this tab yet, but remember the Griffies are in there. So we will look at that in just a moment. We're also going to go to the watch list. I'll show you where you can see that. Your watch list is available right here in the quick drop down. It is also available from your home screen right here. Okay, so we can access the watch list either way. Let's take a look at this now. We're just going to show you how to use it real quick. It's not super complicated. It's just like a watch list on Amazon, eBay, anything like that. You add an item there, it puts it in here. All right, pretty simple. It shows you exactly what the ask price is. You can put notes in here if like you had some sort of reason you were putting it in here and you didn't want to lose track of that or forget why or whatever it is. Maybe you wanted to put some sort of information as far as why you put it in there. This would be what you'd put it here for and save it. It's not anything that goes public or anything like that. It's just for your personal reference. It does put the date that you started watching it in here so you can sort your list and keep it tidy and all that good stuff. We don't have any real interest in the shack other than just a example for this video, so we can just simply remove items here. So if you've added items to your list and you've moved on from them, you just simply remove them. You can keep your list tidy if you wish. I just kind of let mine just do whatever, and I'll check on it periodically, and then every now and then a card will sell. It'll no longer be on there. It just says no longer for sale or no longer available. You just remove it. Pretty simple. So that's the watch list. Really basic, but it is a little tool you can use to put just a little bit of spice into what you're doing. Helps keep your buying a little more organized and partition things off, and just use it to however it makes the most sense for you. Now, using the cart, I've made way more deals involving that than I have with the watch list ever, and I'm going to show you why. First, you can simply view the cart, which is pretty obvious. You just view your items in there. If you're good with everything how it is, you simply just make a payment. So you just pay for the items. Straightforward. You say, I'm either going to pay with store credit card, or PayPal. Check out. Boom, you're done. You can also mass empty your cart, but everybody knows how to work an online shopping cart. So where's the beefy end? Where's the special sauce to the cart? Let me show you. So when we go back here, instead of hitting view cart, you hit make offer. This is where it comes in handy. So when we look here, you'll notice that your cart items are still here, but now it's partitioned off by seller. And it doesn't do that if you just hit view cart. You need to actually go to the cart and then put make an offer. And it gives you the option down here. You can add all cards from the seller store, which would be wild if you did it, but you could. You could remove all cards from the seller. Like if you make an offer in here, we're not going to do it because I don't really want to buy these. But what you could do is it's asking for $189. Maybe you think these are just criminally overpriced, and you're willing to give them $100 for it. You could put the $100 offer in here and send it. And when you make this offer, I'm going to say 3.5 things will happen. 1, the offer goes to the seller. The seller reviews it and accepts it. Pretty straightforward. 2, you just offend the seller with a lowball offer. The offer goes to the seller. Seller reviews it, just outright declines it. Doesn't even want to do business with you. Just horribly offended by it. Doesn't want to even counter. Then there's the third option. Seller reviews, says, I'm willing to do a deal with you, but I'm not taking 100. And they will counter, much like eBay, right? It says offers are the same way. They accept it, they decline it, they can counter it. Now you can go back and forth and counter pretty much as many times as you'll both allow. So you don't have that limit like eBay has, but why I say 3.5 is you can have offer settings set up in the background, and that's not something we've gone over yet. That will be in a future video about selling. However, you can set offer parameters of what the minimum you'll even allow to come through to you, and there's also a parameter that you can set to auto accept. Another nice little trick here before we go on to the last big money saver. Sometimes you'll make an offer here and it'll be below the threshold they'll even accept. So you might make a 50% offer and they'll auto decline it based on their settings. But what it always tells you is the minimum amount they're willing to take. It's wild, but it'll tell you. So maybe they won't accept 50%, but they will take a 60. Doesn't mean they'll auto accept it, but you can then basically follow up. If you get an auto declined offer, you can immediately follow up with the lowest that they'll take if you're willing to pay that. Sometimes sellers are set up where they don't accept offers at all. So you'll say, I'm going to make you an offer of $100, and it'll respond and say seller will accept $189.88. So in that situation, you know it's full price. If you're not willing to pay that, you might as well just move on to somebody else or purchase a different card. But that is the beauty of the watch list and the cart. The cart's a really nice handy trick for you to just kind of shop around, stack stuff up, go through stores, and really set yourself up for some good bulk purchases. Okay, we're finally there. It's the last part of the video here, but it could possibly be the most important thing. You can see here I've got a Giancarlo Stanton card pulled up in my personal inventory here, and there's a reason for that. As we've gone through some of this stuff, there's a lot of COMC integration. You saw in the first video that eBay's pumped money into COMC, and you may be asking yourself, why would you get away from eBay at all? Why would you not just go to COMC's store and shop that way? Why would you not just go do everything through eBay? You got the buyer guarantee, you can pay with PayPal, you can do all that stuff. Why would you ever need to create a COMC login if you're only going to buy cards to ship home? If you don't really have any desire to flip and work within the vault and take advantage of the shipping, what advantage is there to you as the buyer to still buy direct in COMC? And that's what this example is for here, to show you why there's an advantage, especially the bigger the card, the bigger the advantage. So here I've got this Giancarlo Stanton in front of me, and you can see this familiar screen. This is what it looks like in the background for a seller that is listing a card. I have this listed for $24.99. The $1 default shipping is here, so my return would be based on $23.99 if it sells at full price. So if somebody goes in here and whacks the buy it now, they're paying $24.99. Let's assume that buyer's you and you want this card. $24.99 is what you're going to need to pay directly in COMC. Now I'm going to jump over to eBay and show you what it looks like there. So I've got the search bar all loaded up here. We are going to pull this up, and you can see here is the same card on COMC. Why I know it is the exact same card we just talked about is on the previous screen, it showed that it was a COMC monopoly, meaning it's the only one listed on the platform. So here you can see you can buy it now. However, notice the price change. It's $28.99 and you have shipping. Okay, and that's not just the dollar shipping we saw. So here you're going to be into this for almost $34, where you're into it for $25 on COMC. Substantial difference, right? And the reason that this shows up like this is, remember back when in those previous examples where we were determining, do we want to pay direct on eBay or do we want to pay direct on COMC? Remember, for the buyer there was the 11% markup on the cards that you want at auction? Well, that's what we're seeing right here. We're seeing that 11% markup come across here. So again, if somebody buys that card directly in COMC, eBay is not involved. So you can basically buy a card at face value. It is what it is. You buy it on eBay, eBay is going to get their fees out of this one way or the other. But I don't ever see that. I only see that the sale was made on eBay. That is it. I don't know who bought it. I don't really know much other than that. It just shows up in COMC that it's sold. So I'll go back to my personal COMC and I'll show you what it looks like when you have a sale go through on eBay. Okay, so here I have my sales pulled up, and I've just blacked out a few of the other buyers' usernames just to be decent to them. But you can see I've made some eBay sales here, and this is what it looks like. So you can see there's buyer was eBay, it doesn't tell me anything about that, and it also shows the fees in here. And it looks pretty much like every other sale. So you can't really tell the difference, honestly, between one or the other. They all blend together. It looks the same. I get my return minus 5% of the sale fee on COMC. eBay's already taken their fees off the top. So these people paid on eBay, which is fine. But what happens is eBay gets their fees that they always get, and then whatever's left is for the seller and COMC to sort out directly on the platform. So going back to that example of the Giancarlo Stanton, if that card was purchased off eBay, eBay would handle that customer, handle them directly, and pretty much just forward off the shipping and all that stuff off to COMC to basically pull the card from the vault, ship it to the customer, handle all that, but anything regarding servicing the customer would be handled by eBay in that situation. When you cut them out, you save the money, and then you also would just deal with everything directly in COMC. So that's a pretty handy trick. You can imagine if that card got up around $200 or $300, what that markup would be on eBay. We're talking 40, 50 bucks sometimes, even bigger depending on the size of the card. That's why it's important, if you're going to be dealing with COMC, to make sure you're using the platform quite a bit. It's good to use the relationship between eBay and COMC, but you definitely want to be conscious of all the fees involved. So that concludes everything buying, and we've gone through it all. And really the takeaway here is to make sure that as you're going in and buying, that you're using the relationship between eBay and COMC to the biggest advantage to you. You want to, again, go in with a plan. You want to know exactly what you're going to do with that card once you obtain it. You want to have a very clear direction on what you're doing with each purchase, and then you're going to want to make sure that you're capitalizing on anything that benefits you to keep your costs down. And of course, cost is one thing, but there's also things to consider, like convenience and speed, where you may be willing to pay a little more to get things done sooner. It really comes down to your own personal preferences. But I hope that this video was helpful for you. I tried to really go in depth and show you real life examples that I'm doing personally, and showing you the thought process that goes into some of those decisions, in hopes that it will help you become a better buyer using the platform. Or if you aren't familiar with the platform, you got some good information here. My intent with the video was to first show you what buying on COMC is in every way, shape, or form, every way you can encounter it, every fee and scenario you're going to run into as a buyer. And from there, it was to show you how to buy. Once you know what to do, how do you do it? Where do you go? How do you take advantage of the platform? How do you take advantage of certain scenarios to keep your costs down, keep your profits up? But last but most important, the what anybody can learn, the how most people can learn, but the why. The why is the most important, and I hope that I've been able to give you that here today. The why to use this, the why to do certain things in certain scenarios, that's the key. That's what's going to separate you and make you a better buyer. With that being said, it's time to wrap up the video. It's not really flashy watching me scroll through COMC, but if you've made it this far, I really appreciate that. Any support for the channel is very much appreciated. I will preemptively thank you for that. But until next time, we'll see you.